I'm not getting.
Okay, we are on Daf Mem Gimel and Beis, 4 lines for the top of the page. Maseches Gittin in the Bavli. Itmar was stated, let's say you have a woman who's a half maid servant and half free. So she's going to eventually be totally no, not necessarily. Anyway, Sheniskad Shel Reuven, she became a Kadeshes to Reuven. Benishtacher, and then she was freed because of Benishtacher Shel Shimon, and then she became a Kadeshes to Shimon. So who is she married to? Is she betrothed to Reuven or Shimon? She was betrothed to Reuven when she was half free, and then betrothed to Shimon when she was fully free. There's a machlokes. Rav Yosef Bar Choma Amar Rav Nachman Paku Kedusha Rishon. Rav Yosef Bar Choma says in the name of Rav Nachman that even if there is an opinion that she was married, the moment she got free, it's as if she's a katan shenei ladami, says Rashi. It's as if she was newborn and her first condition flies away. So she's married to the second one. She's married to Shimon, betrothed. Rav Zayda Amar Rav Nachman Gomer Kedusha Rishon. According to Rav Zayda and the name of Rav Nachman, this is easy to understand. Gomer Kedusha Rishon, that the moment you free her, now she's considered fully married. Until now, says Rashi, if anybody's with her, you get Osham, you get a guilt offering, you get Malchus. From now on, you're going to get, she's considered fully married.
But I'm sorry, I'm coming in a bit late. Where are you?
We're up to Daf Mem Gimel Amud Beis. Omer Rav Zayda. 9 lines in the top, the second word on the line.
Got it.
Rav Zayda says that if a woman who's a chetzi shifcha and chetzi bas cherda becomes betrothed to Reuben, and then when she gets free, she gets betrothed to Shimon, Rav Yosef says, Rav Yosef Bar Choma says in the name of Rav Nachman that the first condition flies away. She's considered betrothed to Shimon because she's like a katan shenei ladami. She's like newborn. Rav Zayda says no. Gomri kedusha rishon. She now automatically, the moment she's freed, she's fully married to Reuven, not to Shimon, to Reuven. So we're saying Amar Rav Zayda kavasei di mistabra makes sense, like my opinion. That if someone is with a shifcha nechrefes leish, they don't die because she's not free. But if she would be free automatically, then she would be fully married, and then yumsu. Says Rashi, we're talking about a half shifcha, half about bas cherda. She's nechrefes leish because hafte le'nifdasa, she's half free. She's not chayiv misa because of eshes ish kilei chuvsha. But if chusha, then yumsa because then she's going to be eshes ish gomer. Okay. Omelei Abaya uletana David Rabbi Shmuel Dam B'Shifcha Knanis Umeresas Avid Ivri. Abaya told Reb Zayda, what about according to Tana David Rabbi Shmuel that we're talking about a shifcha Knanis who's set aside for an Avid Ivri? Achanami chufsha yumsa, she would be freed automatically. She would be considered engaged. Of course not. Elamai Yitzchak Meimer Shechufsha V'Chaz V'Niskach. Pasuk is obviously talking about she got freed and then she became betrothed after she got freed. Here also we're talking about that she became betrothed to Shimon after. So says Abaya, you don't have a right. Maybe she is like a katan shenei. Maybe the halacha is like Rav Yosef Bar Choma. Gemara goes on. Omer Rav Huna Bar Ketino. Omer Rav Yitzchak Ma'asim Isha Achas Shechetze Shifcha V'Chetze Bas Cherda V'Kofu Es Rabba V'Asa Bas Cherda. There's a story with a woman who was half-half. They forced her Rav, and they made her free. Must be like Rabbi Yechon ben Breka that they both have the big mitzvah period of Idivya, and that's why they freed her. But the reason why they freed her was because she was just being with everybody, and it was bad for society, so they had to free her so that she'll get properly engaged. And some marriage is good for society. They in your zone. So what's the din? It's a Rambam, and also there's a Simbem Dalet Sifyat base. So I guess I'll take a quick look in the Safari. Evna Ezer. We're up to the Mishnah now. Here it is, Sif Yud Beis. says like this: someone who's Makadish, a woman who's a half shifcha and half basar, and tzricha get, she's going to require a get. If before you had a chance to give her a get, she got free, and then somebody else betrothed her, like Reuben and Shimon in the case of Argamar. She's considered betrothed to both of them, but tzricha get mishneim. She'll need a get from both of them. She's also allowed, if she wants, to divorce the first one and marry the second one. That's okay. But not the other way around. They die. The brother of one of them does chalitza. The brother of the other one does chalitza or yibum, the second one. So it's considered kedushin. It's a suffix. We don't know what the halacha is like, either Reb Zeta or Reb Yosef Bar Chomam Reb Nachman. Reb Zeta Reb Nachman is Bar Chomam. We don't know what the halacha is like. Okay. Weiter. We're up to the Mishnah on Daf Mem Gimel on base 43b. Somebody who sells his servant to Goyim or to Chutzaretz, Yotze ben Chayrin, they go free. What does that mean? If he ran away from the guy, or Bezdin is kindness him to redeem him, when he redeems him, he can no longer enslave him. Why? Because he sold him the Chutzaretz. So this is one of the Gemaras where we see the Ma'ila of Eretz Yisrael over Chutzaretz. They were kindness a guy if he sells a slave to Chutzaretz. You can't sell your slave to Chutzaretz.
It says here, even if he sells a slave to a Jew, Chutzaretz.
Yeah, even if it's a Jew, exactly.
Because the slave is partially obligated in the fulfillment of mitzvot, and he would be restricted in his ability to fulfill them in his new situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. That's amazing.
Says the Gemara, so if you sell him to Goy in Eretz Yisrael, or even to a Yid in Chutzaretz, you have to free him. Yeah. Somebody tells a servant to Chutzaretz, he goes free, and he needs to have get shikhr from his rabbi. It's only if he didn't write a star. But if he wrote a star, that alone, that star alone, that he sold him to the guy, that is also his star of shikhr. My oina and Rav Sheshes, the cost of leochel is shetivrach many in leisik bach. Nishativrach mimenu in leisik bach. If you're going to run away from the guy, what?
What does that mean?
What does it literally mean?
Does it mean lashon to abuse something or to do something wrong?
I don't know. Let me see. I mean, Rashi says star, but I don't think that's what it literally means. So you wrote basically to the guy that you wrote to the guy, not to the guy. You wrote to your Eved that if you run away from him, I don't want to have anything to do with you. That alone, it's a star shikhr. You don't have to write a special star shikhr. The last time I looked in Safari on the Gemara was Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis. So it's 15 blot later. Let's see. My oinoi. It says here in the Safaria document. So they also translate Rashi star in the Safaria.
Yeah, that's what the Steinsaltz. Yeah, Steinsaltz says that.
Love mean. I can
change you.
Let's say. You forgot his sussy. So if you borrowed from a guy and you said your evet is going to be the what's it called that like the mashkin, so to speak, the guarantee. When the guy does nimuse mimenu, he goes free. So the question is, my nimuse Ravuna bar Yehuda nashke choisim. The moment he puts a sign that this is his evet, he takes control of the yid, of the Jewish slave, the evet Kanani. The evet Kanani is going to go free. Moshe Rav Sheshes, it says, if you have an oris is somebody who is a sharecropper. An oris is a sharecropper that he basically says, I'll take a percentage of the field, whatever the percentage is. Chakiris is not a sharecropper, he guarantees a certain amount of wheat. A choicher, he's going to take the guy's field, he's going to work it, and it guarantees that the master will get a certain amount of wheat from it. Varise Boteovis, it's kavua. You have it in the family. So what's the din? Is if it's Boteovis, and if it's a Jewish oris, a Jewish choicher, or a Jewish oris has been around for generations, is it considered? But the field is known by non-Jew. And he also says, a guy who was mamashkin, he gave his field as collateral because a yid lent him money. So are these considered owned by a Jew or not? Even if the yid did nimusay for the guy on the guy's field, it's bottom in a mice. I'm going to say nimusa means nashki, that he put a sign that this is my slave. So the bas nashki, what is it? It can't be that that's what nimusa means. El Rav Sheshes zman. Nimusa means that he says, if I don't pay you by such and such a time, by such and such a time, it will belong to you. That's what it means, zman. So the Gemara says, "Kasha zman azman." By the slave, it's considered mechira. It's considered a sale. By the field, it's not. By the field, it's still considered to belong to the guy. So what's the difference? If you lend money to a guy and the time comes, the field should automatically belong to you and should be chayiv b'maisus. You should be chayiv. You should be obligated to pay the tithes, and vice versa. And by the Eved, we see the Eved does belong to the guy if the time comes. So the Gemara says, like, by the Eved, we're talking about that the time had come and he hadn't paid, the Jew hadn't paid his loan. So therefore, it belongs to the guy and the slave will go free. Mashain Kane. At the field, the time hadn't come yet. So it still belongs to the Yid.
Isn't that like a little trick that the Jew is doing? He's saying, you can have my guy if I don't pay up this loan.
My
and
slave.
then he doesn't pay, you can have my slave, and then he doesn't pay up the loan, and then so the guy thinks he's going to own the slave, and the slave is free. He can run for it.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I guess so. Saying he could abuse the knas.
Right, he could get it seems, unless
I mean, he's losing his slave. You're saying if he doesn't like the slave anymore?
The guy's not getting anything out of it.
Right. I mean, every slave could potentially run away. The guy knows that. You're saying normally if a slave runs away and usually you would think the law is he's recaptured, he's returned. But here, if he runs away and because it's a Jewish country, they'll just keep him free. I hear what you're saying. If they were talking about an Eved, that the time had come for him to pay the loan, and then we say that it automatically will belong to the guy. Do you need to say such thing? It's obvious that the Eved already, the din kicks in that he's supposed to go free. Both cases, the time hadn't yet come to pay the loan. So if so, why by a field do we say it's not chayiv in Maseches, and by an Eved, he's considered to be owned by the non-Jew. Lekasha legufa lepeda. Legufa. By an Eved, we're talking about. He said it's a different type of nimusai. He said, if I'm not going to pay you the money, you're going to own the goof itself. Says Rashi, because he was mezalzel in the takana of the chacham, they're not allowed to sell a slave to every chachavim. They were given a knas even before the time comes. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Sorry. Because he's mezalzel in the takana of the chacham, and he said the goof of the Eved will be koine even before the time comes. But the soda, he gave him zman lepedis. He says you're going to eat pedis until the money is going to get paid. So it's not a mechira. Even if the zman reaches, it's not going to be a mechira because it's only the pedis. This that we say, the case of the field is the goy borrowed from the yid of Manas, that if I don't pay you by a certain time, come and be mamashkin, this property will be yours. As long as the yid didn't come up and actually be mamashkin it and actually take control, it's going to be potter. And even if the time comes, it's going to be becheskes the and if the yid is taking part of the paytis, it's going to be potter mina meiser. In other words, let's say he took some of the paytis for whatever reason, it's going to be potter mina meiser because he wasn't mamashkin the whole field yet. By the Eved, it's a knas of the chachamim. Because he didn't pay by the proper time, even if the guy didn't come and take possession, automatically the Eved has a right to go free. So in such a case, for sure, the Yid will be in trouble if the guy runs away. If the Eved goes free, and the guy never came to be mashkin the Eved, it's going to be, I'm saying, he'll owe the money. Unless he made him a apeseke, and then he made a trick, and then I guess it's a good question. Like, what if he made a trick, and then the Eved went free, and he kind of knew that would happen? Would he still owe the money to the guy or not? It's probably up to the local bezin. I don't know if there's a special takana for such a situation. Randaf Mem Dalet Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara Tanur Rabbanan. Gvoy b'choyvay.
Other details.
What? What if a guy took your Eved Kanani from a Yid by force because he had a choiv, he had a debt? It's not that the Yid mentioned I have a slave. The Yid didn't have enough money to pay back, and he grabbed the guy's slave. So it wasn't really his fault. You're going to say a guy who has a slave is not allowed to borrow money? Or if a sikrikoin took him, sikrikoin is during the time that the Yidden were mufkara and they were declared ownerless for death. It was the time of the Shmad, like during times of great persecution.
Well, that comes up later in 57, I think, with the description of the destruction of the temple. The Sikar, that word comes up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We have it later on. It's true. In 55, 56, 57, we go in the whole Gemara. We talk about the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash.
Yeah.
So the guy didn't want to die, and he told him, "Take my slave." So it wasn't really his fault. Says the Gemara, he doesn't automatically go free. It's an oinus. We don't give a knas by a case of oinus. You're going to say that if the guy came and collected him because of a debt, he doesn't go free. Ramini, there's a contradiction. If there was an oinus that the Beis HaMelech took his grain, if it's because of his chayv, if it's because he had a debt, he has to give meiser from it. But if it's a hefset, if it's a loss, it's not a debt that he owed to the king, then he's potter milaser. So we see that if it's b'chayvai by Meiser, it's still considered to belong to him. It's not considered an oinus. So too by an Eved, we should say the same thing. It's your chayv, it's your debt, it's your problem. Shiny Hasan to come mishtar shilei. There, you're paying your debt. So Lagabi Meiser, you're chayv Meiser. By the Eved, however, the whole knas is when you sell him. You didn't sell him on purpose, so why should we give you a knas? So Meiser is a whole different story. You can't compare Meiser to Eved. By Eved, it's only if you do something b'sha'at nefesh, purposely, willingly selling your slave to a goy so that he can't do the mitzvahs that he was doing. Then we give you the knas, but not if it wasn't on purpose. By Meiser, it depends if you had bano or not from the fact that they collected this food. You had to know, you still have to be maser. It's a big chiddush. You would think not. Still have to be maser the fruits that the king sees. You still have to give 10% from that produce. Toshma Damarav, come in here, Rav said.
What about the fruits going forward? Just from that crop, not going forward though.
He's saying if he sees your field,
yeah.
If he steals a part of your field, oh, if he took a part of your field, I don't know. We're not talking about that he seized a part of your field. I think if he sees a part of your field, it's different. That he grows the fruit himself, I think that's a different story. I think he seized your fruit. He didn't seize your crop, not your field. I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. But Sheva, take this and bring it in for Izzy. Okay, weiter. Toshma, Domer Rav, Hamoicher Avdei lefarhaing over gechovim, Yotzo lechedes. I don't know how to pronounce that. Someone who sells his eved to someone who's a matzik, someone who's a tyrant, and you sold him because the guy was just trying to take you down. He's Yotze L'chedes. So frag the Gemara, my Havalei Maybe why is he Yotze L'chedes? What could you have done? First of all, it's not so fair that you're giving your slave such a brutal guy. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Says the Gemara, also my Havalei Lemeva. No, I'm skipping. Yotze L'chedes. Also my Havalei Lefayis. That's a different case. There, he should have given him something else and not a slave. He gave him a slave. It's not that the guy seized it. He gave it to him. So if he gave it to him, it's a different story. He should have been Mephisim and he wasn't Mephisim. I don't know what the Gemara is adding when we repeat it and they say, so we just said that. Toshma, come in here. The parhaing. I don't know how to pronounce that. He goes free. So here we're not talking about. No. I'm sorry. I skipped again. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the question. What if he sold him for 30 days? What's the din in such a case? There we're talking about that you sold them for permanently, not temporarily. So we don't have an answer for Rabbi Yirmiyah. What if you sold him? In other words, what does that mean? So what do you need him for? He's not going to work for you. Rashi explains you sold him for his kids, so that the guy will own all of his kids. So you're not making him Mechala Shabbos. Or if you sold him and he said he's still allowed to keep Shabbos. What's the din if you sold him except for Shabbos and Yom Tov? Yeah, bring it here. The Ger Toishab, so Mumar. What if you sold him to a year? There's a Mumar, a Ger Toishab. It's Mekabel love not to serve idols, but he still eats not kosher. Yisrael Mumar, we all know what Yisrael Mumar is. Lakuti Mao Hoshet Miachada. Ger Toishab Regechov. Kuti Yisrael Mumar, Amr Lo Gevchov, Amr Lo Gisol. By a Ger Toishab, everybody agrees he's considered like a guy. That's why Mamash, he doesn't keep the mitzvahs. By the other cases, it's a machlokes.
What's the debate about?
If you sell to Yisrael Mumar, is the Knas of the Chacham you also want Yisrael Mumar or not? Or if you sell them to a Kuti? Now,
Oh.
Kuti, obviously, that was before they decided the Kuti's a goy, I think.
Yes. And the Mumar is...
Yisrael Mumar, there's a machlokes if the Knas includes a Yisrael Mumar or not. It's very interesting. You would think Yisrael Mumar. What do you mean? He's like a goy. But I guess
Mumar is a Jew, apostate. They use a fancy word here. Does that mean? Does that like what he called apicorsis, or
does that what?
Like apicorsis?
Yeah, I guess so. He transgresses the Torah. He does Averos. I mean, it's not exactly the same. It depends which Mefarish. Rambam has different interpretations for different things, but it's all along the same lines. An apikirsh is someone who denies the Torah Shebal Peh. A mumar is someone who purposely transgresses the Torah mitzvahs. He could be different. There's many different types of mumar. He could be a mumar for one mitzvah. He could be a mumar for the whole Torah. You could be a mumar because of fear. You could be a mumar because of you don't care. Okay, so the Gemara doesn't get into it. Okay, so the Gemara asks like this. Very interesting question. They asked Rabami. He himself, he did it himself, the Evid. He became like he signed up for the army, basically. And there's no way of getting him out. Could he at least accept some money for him? Let's say the army is willing to pay for him. Because he's your slave, after all, they recognize your ownership. Can you accept the money? Or do the Chacham not allow it? Omer loy, Reb Yirmi, Reb Zrika, Puk ayin b'mechiltach. Go and study your teachings in your Mishnah, so we can know what to answer. Even though they didn't ask, they asked Reb Ami, but Reb Yirmi was also involved. He was in the base Medrash at the time, so he told Reb Zrika to look in Mechiltach to find the answer. Nofak, he went out, Dok, and he was very careful, and he looked at his Mishnahs, which spoke about the topic. But Ashkach the Tani, he found that it says in the Brisa, someone who sells his house to a goy, the money is forbidden. Because we're talking about obviously in Eretz Yisrael.
Yes.
Pasuk says, you shouldn't allow them to be in Eretz Yisrael. You're not allowed to sell a house to a non-Jew in Eretz Yisrael. It's a special mitzvah. So you're not allowed to have benefit from the money. If a guy, however, force the yid to give him his house, and there's nothing he can do to get him out, you're allowed to get paid for it. And you're also allowed to do it in their bezdin. Even though you're giving them chshivas, it doesn't matter. They should come out to miyoda because you're saving the money from their hands. So we want to say so too here. In the case where the Eved ran away, it's not your fault. You're saving the money. If they're a kol panim willing to pay you, we should be allowed to accept the money. Gemara asks, maybe it's only a house. My house, are not so worried that he's going to sell it because usually a person needs a house. There's no gzeir of the chachamim. I mean, there is a certain gzeir, that dom of asurin. Maybe only by a house. Oh, sorry. Maybe only by a house. Sorry. The chum weren't geyser that if he grabs it from you, they said you're allowed to take the money only over there because we're not worried that you're going to sell your house. By a servant, you could deal without. You can live without a servant. Also, lizvune. If they allow you to take the money, maybe they don't allow you to take money because then maybe they're worried you're going to sell it.
So you can't sell your property. You can't sell your property to a non-Jew, your property in Eretz Yisrael, to a non-Jew, right?
Right. There's actually a din. Yeah, it was actually controversial because I think Rabbi Eliyahu, famous Rabbi Shmuel Eliyahu from Tzfas, wrote this and then it got into the secular press and whatever. that you're
But
not allowed to sell.
doesn't it happen though that, for example, the Russian compound in Yerushalayim, they bought it from a Jew, didn't they?
I mean, I wouldn't, that's international relationship. That's a different story.
Oh, okay,
It's not an
international.
individual non-Jew. I don't know if you could compare.
Yeah, or an embassy or something like that. Okay.
That's different.
Different,
I think
yes.
that for that there's leniencies. We
Yes.
actually find
By
that
the way,
Shlomo Melech-
they could do like Lakin does in Ottawa, a lot of shopping malls. He still owns the land. He rents it to them for 100 years.
who?
Lakin, the Lakin group. There was an old farmer, a Jewish farmer in Ottawa. He,
Oh,
he
'cause
didn't
Ottawa
sell,
used-
he didn't sell anything.
That's
He
smart.
owns everything.
And the 100 years are almost up.
I don't know, like, it's the Lakin group is constantly getting rent money in.
Oh, I see. They pay for a year.
Right.
Wow. That's a very long rental agreement. But it's good. So the question is, maybe only by a house are they lenient that if he grabs it from you, you can take the money. But by never, we're worried. Maybe they shouldn't let you take the money under any. Maybe they don't let you take the money under any circumstances. Rabami sent to them, because this originally was a question to Rabami, to those that asked him. Miniami barnosan Torah yoitza l'chol Yisrael. It's a very interesting expression. From Ami barnosan, Torah is going to go out to the whole Jewish people. And Rashi explains Hayro Azuli Yisrael, this teaching, this ruling. Basically, he wanted to. He was the most prominent in his time, Rabami and Rabasi. So he wanted everybody to know this is like an official ruling. If there's an Eved who he himself did it, he was mapil the knosses, mutter litos domov, you're allowed to take the money. Because of when you're allowed to basically deal in non-Jewish courts in this situation because you're saving the money from their hands. Okay, so that's the din. Shubin Levi says someone who sells your Eved to a goy, you have a knas at meya b'domov that you have to redeem him. So not only does he go free, you also have an obligation to redeem him. This is another notch. So it's really not worth it. When they say 100 times, is it really true that you have to pay up to 100 times his value to get him free? Toshma coming here. Someone who sells a behema gasa to a goy, you're not allowed to sell a behema gasa in Eretz Yisrael to a non-Jew. So you have a knas. If you transgress the knas of the chachamim, you have to pay up to 10 times. So we see that it's not 100; it's only up to 10. By behema gasa, it's only 10. So it can't be that an Eved is 100. That's too much. That's basically what the Gemara wants to say. Maybe an Eved is much stricter with an Eved because every day you can't do the mitzvahs. So it's up to 100. Up to 10 times. There's another version that Shubin Levi says up to 10 times. Is it specifically or not specifically? By behema gasa, you have to pay up to 100. Says the Gemara, shiny Eved delay hodele. The difference is the animal you're not going to get back. Because you're not going to get back only up to 10 times. The behema gasa, however, you're going to get him back. It's up to 100 times. Frag the Gemara, because it's coming back. That doesn't make sense. So if you're going to say it's because it's coming back to him, so you should give him a knas one more time. Not another 100 times. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm losing the flow. Is the animal's coming back or the Eved is coming back? Who's coming back?
The Eved's going free. It's because in this version, the animal is coming back.
How is the animal coming back?
You're redeeming him. You're paying for him back. You're getting him back. So the Gemara is asking, but Mashenkin by the Abed, even if you're going to redeem him, you have to let him go. That's part of the Knas. So Gemara says, fine, so you're redeeming him. So you should pay one more time, maybe 11 times, but not 100 more, not 90 more times. That doesn't make sense. So Gemara differentiates 11 milsa de l'shchicha, milsa de l'shchicha legazer b'rabbanan. By a slave, it's very uncommon that you should sell a slave to a non-Jew. So because it's uncommon, they're not gozer so much, up to 100. That's interesting. I don't fully understand that. Therefore, they're not gozer up to 100, only up to 10. Mashenka de Beimagasa, that it's more common, so they want to be strict with you to prevent it. That's why they say up to 100, so that nobody will dare to do it. It's also maybe people think it's not such a big deal. By Nevid, it's much more understandable why you shouldn't do it, because you're going to make him stop doing mitzvahs. By Behemoth, what's the big deal? So therefore people don't think it's a big deal. Therefore, we stop you by giving you such an enormous fine. Okay. We're on the bottom now of Daf Mem Dal, 3 lines at the bottom. If you sell your Eved and you die, what happens? Very interesting. Does your son have a knas? So we're going to compare it to a different case. Basically, for a kohen, he has an interest for a bechor to be a balmum, because if it's a balmum, he doesn't have to bring it to the mizbech. It doesn't have to deal with it b'kedusha, and it's not a korban. It just gets to keep it. So let's say the kohen causes a mum in the oizen, in the ear. So he's over transgresses kol mum le'yabai, and there's a knas that you're not allowed to eat it. You're not allowed to have any benefit from the animals. The question is, if he does Sodom Oznei Mace and he dies, does his son have the knas? So we'll compare it to there. They gave the knas also to his son. Maybe it's only over there, I see it. There it's a biblical, he's over on Kol Mum L'Yibay. Here it's only midrabanan to sell your slave to another kochavim, so you can't compare. If you're going to try to say, given the malachti b'moyed. Okay,
you
so
mean
a
Jew's not allowed to sell a slave to a non-Jew?
That was the whole din. That's the whole din.
Oh, because we had examples where Jews sold a slave
he transgressed, and all those examples he was going against the takana. In most of the cases, most of it was against his will. Okay, so we have another din that you're not allowed to do malach on Chol HaMoed. If you're able to do it before Chol HaMoed, or you can wait until after Chol HaMoed, you're not allowed to do it on Chol HaMoed. What if you were mechaven malachta b'moed? Rashi says you started right before Chol HaMoed to make sure that it's going to be a big loss if you don't finish in Chol HaMoed, and then you're going to be allowed to do it. In kiven malachta b'moed, it's your problem. You lose everything. What if you die or remikonis your son afterwards? They didn't give a knas for your son. Your son is allowed to finish the work. It would probably be a big question. Why did this guy die? Maybe because he did this. So the Gemara says, the son didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So how does the son do anything wrong if the father puts the blemish on the bechor? Why is the son getting the knas?
What? No, basically, the father didn't do an isser. Father didn't do an isser yet. He died before Chol HaMoed. His isser was theoretically an isser because he started before Yom Tif, right before Yom Tif, so that he would be allowed to finish on Chol HaMoed. So we give him a knas. You're not allowed to finish on Chol HaMoed, but he didn't do an isser. But in this case, in both cases, by Bechor, he did the isser. He damaged the ear, and also by the selling slave, he did the isser. Did they concern Rabbanan? Valese is a knas only to him, and he's not around anymore. Or maybe it's to his money, and his money is around. So that's the question. In the case of the Evet, the case of the Bechor, we know that you get the knas for your son because it's their right. So the Gemara says, I'm related to Nisua. We was taught If you took the thorns out of a field on Shemitah during the Shemitah year, it's not considered Avodas Karka Minat Torah. You're not supposed to do it Midrabanan, but it's not Minat Torah. So you're allowed to plow it on Motzei Shvis. But if Nitiyavo and Nidairo, if you fertilized it, or you Nidairo, you brought animals to live there, and that will also be a way to fertilize it. You're not allowed to plow it on Motzei Shvis. If you did this thing and you died, your son could finish it on Motzei Shvis. Only for you is the knas, but not for your son. If you made your friends taharis, things that are tar, you made them tamei, and you die, you have to pay him. If you did it b'mezid, but your son doesn't. My time a hezek and nikolish me hezek. Really, a hezek that's not recognizable is not considered a hezek. It's not considered a damage. The knasa the rabbanon here, and it's only a fine midrabanan. Like did they consider rabbanon? The brei like consider rabbanon. The knas is only to him, but not to his son. We'll do one more piece. Oy lechutzarts, he sold the chutzarts. Taner rabbanon was taught in the brayso. Meikar the lechutzarts yatzal cheder. Someone who sells his evet to chutzarts, he goes free. So get shicher merabi sheni. He needs a get shicher from the yid who he sold him to, from Rabbi Sheni, from both of them basically. Depends. Sorry. What does that mean, Kate said? Omer pleni avdi mechartiu lepleni antoichi. Omer pleni avdi lepleni antoichi. Lo yotzel lantoichi shebe antoichi yetze. Lo yetze lantoichi lantuchi shebe antoichi yetze. If he said plenty avdi, I sold him to a certain person who's in antoichi, it doesn't mean he goes free, says Rashi. Why not? Because maybe we're talking about a guy who was born in antoichi. Not that he was born and he lives there, and you could say he didn't buy him to bring him there. So he's lo yotzel lechedis. And even if he brought him there, maybe he's going to come back. But if he says lepleni shebe antoichia to the guy living in Chutzaretz, then yetze. It's only if he's living in Lud. If you say he's living in Eretz Yisrael, then lo yetze. Says the Gemara, like Kasha, the Yisrael base of Eretz Yisrael, the Yisrael ushpiz of Eretz Yisrael. If he has a house in Eretz Yisrael, then we're much more lenient. If he's only staying temporarily in Eretz Yisrael, then he has to be. Then you have to say lantuchi ashori belut. Yirmi asks the question. Ben Bavli shenosa yisher Eretz Yisrael v'ichnisa le'avodim v'shvachas. If you have a person from Bavli who marries someone from Eretz Yisrael and she has servants and maidservants, v'dai tilachzor, he wants to go back to Bavli. What would be the din? Is the woman considered like she sold her slave for chutzaretz? Because the Baal b'nichse yishtei is considered a lekeach. So the Gemara says, "Tiboy laman damar din imo, tiboy laman damar din imo." If you have a woman who's bringing possessions to her husband into a marriage, and then she gets divorced, she says, "I'm taking back what I gave," and he says, "I'm giving you money, the way they were evaluated in my possession. I'll give you the value." Some people say the din is imo, that she gets back what she gave, and some people say the din is imo because it's b'acharei yusay. So the question is like this: that she gets back what she put in, because the din is with her. Maybe it's like hers. Because he gets the paydas, it's like his, so he has to free them. She's gonna have to free the slaves. Question is also, even if he said din imo, that he only pays the money, maybe it's his. Maybe because he didn't acquire her legufay, it's like hers. So Teiku, we don't know the answer. I guess I'll look it up quickly. This is Ches. The Rambam, Perk Ches Milchus Avodim, Halacha Zayin. Let's see. Halacha. Mishnah Torah. Sefer.
Avadim. Sefer Kinyan. Kinyan, right? Kinyan.
Yeah. Sefer Kinyan.
Yeah. Steinsaltz gives the source.
Perk Ches Halacha Zayin. Okay, I got it. 1 second. Perk Ches. Just takes time to load. Here it is. Ben Bovel should also Isha Beretz Yisrael, says the Rambam. If you have someone from Bovel who marries a woman from Eretz Yisrael, but Daiti Lachs, who wants to go back to Bovel, his wife brought into the marriage servants and maidservants. It's a question. Is it like someone who sold them to Chutzar, where it's not like they're sold to him? Because the body belongs to her, so we don't know the answer. So I suppose the answer is if they're toifus, then they could go free. If they run away, they could go free. All right. I think we'll have to stop here and we'll continue on Sunday, but I actually have to stop early on Sunday. So the question is if we could start at 10, or is that like a bit pushing it?
That's fine for me.